welcome to Crime in Court. This is an update in the Delphi case, specifically the trial of Richard Allen. And this is Indiana versus Richard Allen. And we are going to cover we're combining both 11, day 11 and day 12 for testimony recap. So let's get started because we've got a lot to get through. So I've been giving you guys like recaps from different journalists, reporters that are boots on the ground in the courtroom. So today I try to mix it up. There's a lot of similar characters, similar people that I reuse because they're very good and they give us a lot of good details. So there's that, but I do try to mix it up a little bit. So for you guys. All right, so I'm going to shrink myself. And while I do that, can you guys please hit that like button as we begin? And I'm on the wrong tab. All right, so actually make that a little bit bigger for you guys. All right, so this is Max Lewis, Fox 59. He's got great tweets. So, do you still call them tweets? What are you supposed to call them? X's? Like that doesn't make any sense. I don't know. We still call them tweets, right? Does anyone have an answer? I would love to know. Anyways, all right. So Delphi homicides trial day 11, and this is the midday break where he gets out and he's able to give us an update from the first half of the day. So he says the only witness to take the stand so far is Dr. Monica Walla, who was the psychologist at the Westville Correctional Facility. Dr. Walla testified about her sessions and her interactions with Mr. Allen. Those included confessions that he made to her about taking the lives of Abby and Libby. At one point in early April, he said he said he took their lives to preserve his own. That makes no sense. That makes no sense with the state's case. Also, I just want you to be aware that Dr. Walla has been basically in every single social media group you can find that follows the Delphi case. And she was commenting on and following many content creators while she was treating Richard Allen in Westville Correctional Facility and giving him doses of Halidol, injected and oral. And this was against his will. He never gave consent for these drugs to be administered to him. And that was all Dr. Walla's doing. Dr. Walla may have had an ulterior motive to treating Richard Allen because of this. And she actually was let go from her position at Centurion, which is the third party company that employs her, but she's hired through the third party company from Westville. Westville Correctional Facility goes through Centurion to hire her as the psychologist, which is also a weird thing. Why does he have a psychologist? Usually that's not something that's not usually like a benefit you get when you're an inmate is therapy. All right. So Alan also apparently admitted to having a sex addiction and was an alcoholic. I don't know if any of that's true. We know he's being dosed with drugs against his consent, antipsychotic drugs, which can cause hallucinations and confusion, and any drug, if you're given too much of it, can probably make you loopy, confused, which we'll get to in a second on day 12, we hear some jailhouse calls that he makes to his family, and he sounds very loopy and out of it and confused. So Dr. Walla is the only one that she writes this narrative of his confessions, which we're going to hear a little bit more about, and none of this is recorded. No tapes are provided of these so-called confessions. And we know she's also feeding information to Rick. And he's also getting, he's getting court documents as well. So he's getting fed information from his attorneys if he ever does get to see his attorneys or get documents from them. Because they've been limiting him with that at this point too. He's in solitary confinement, being drugged against his will, and having this Dr. Walla, who's in every Facebook group, social media group imaginable about this Delphi case, talking to him about his case. Even though she says she told him not to talk about his case, but she still continues talking about the case with him. So, are we being gaslit? Are we in the twilight zone? I really don't understand how these things keep happening in our justice system and it's just able to fly. I don't understand. So Dr. Wallace said after Allen received discovery papers from his attorneys, he began acting strangely. She said repeatedly that she believed it wasn't genuine and Allen was only doing odd things to get attention, I'm assuming, or sympathy or something. I don't know. He doesn't finish a sentence there. He says at one point, Allen was apparently eating his own feces. That is true. Dr. Wallop believed Allen suffered from situational psychoses. So he's still suffering from you've stated it. You've said he's suffering from a state of psychoses, and we're going to continue to use his words against him during this time. It's just not right. In early May, Allen made his most detailed confession yet. He told Dr. Walla that he drank 3 beers that day and then headed to the trails. He said that he saw the girls walking and followed them. This is all what, according to Dr. Walla. He mentioned doing something with a gun and believes that's when the bullet fell out. Note, the bullet was found at the murder scene and not on the bridge where he states that this happened, where he was fumbling with the gun and then the bullet just happened to fall out. And again, these are all details that could have been fed to him or he could have somehow picked up on his own through reading about the case. So she then ordered them, or then he then ordered them down the hill and was going to R them. Then he saw a van and it scared him, so he made them cross the creek. He then cut their necks and waited there to make sure they were no longer alive. Then he walked back to his car and continued his life normally ever since then, according to Walla. Dr. Wallace said that he had no psychotic signs at the time, but he was high risk for self deletion. He talked about deleting himself by jumping off his sink and snapping his neck. I'm assuming his sink in his cell. I also heard so he was also at one point drinking toilet water. And I also heard that they had shut his water off as one of those, like, if you don't tell us, you have no water. And could be like he could have been suffering severe dehydration and drinking the water that for that reason, or eating the feces because they weren't feeding him. I'm wondering if if there's some torture methods that were involved here, like not feeding him, not giving him water, telling him all sorts of threats that if he didn't confess to these crimes, and they're sitting here telling him, "You did it, you did it, you did it," over and over again. I think something was going on here. I don't have proof, but that's just something just doesn't seem right here. It's fishy. So okay. Later, he told Dr. Walla, "I didn't do everything I said I did, but I did take Abby and Libby's life." Dr. Walla said Allen received discovery papers from his defense in early April. So she's saying that this all comes from his discovery papers. But let's not forget that she started giving him Halidol around this time, and he was at this point in time, he's been in, if this is April, what, November, December, January, February, at least for 5 months where he's been in solitary confinement. He already has a history of depression, anxiety, and self deleting, wanting to self delete. And here we are trying to break him, trying to get him to confess or take his own life. One or the other. They don't really care. As long as it helps their case, right? So sick what they've done to him. So during the month of April, Alan was involuntarily given his medication via injection. So there you have it. During the month of April, involuntary Halidol. And he begins these confessions, supposed confessions, when he starts taking this Halidol. So there's a correlation there. I would think that's more of a correlation than he just received his discovery at that time. Dr. Walla testified that she believed he was faking some of his symptoms during some of these outbursts. Dr. Walla testified that he mentioned starting a nuclear war. Okay. He also tried to flush his Bible down the toilet at one point. However, Dr. Walla said he was showing signs of improvement by late April. How? He's doing all these things. How is he improving? However, Dr. Wallace said he was showing signs of improvement. During cross examination, defense attorney Brad Rosie asked right out of the gate why she no longer works at the DOC, the Department of Corrections. She stopped working there after testifying during a July hearing in the Delphi case. We've talked about that. We went over the Delphi hearing. Unfortunately, her testimony was never given out to the public. It was considered, even though people asked for it, people paid for the transcripts to disseminate it to the public, and yet her testimony was withheld for some reason. They're saying it's because there's mental health records in there. I think it has something to do with their protecting themselves. And after this July hearing is when she stopped working with Centurion. They let her go. Centurion, again, third party that the Department of Corrections hired their psychologist through. So it was revealed there that she used the DOC database to look up information about the case that was not public. That is a big, 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 big biggie. And I would think she would be able to get her license revoked from that because you are potentially, maybe it's not egregious enough, but I would think that's pretty egregious to be looking up private information about your client without, the consent to do so. So, yeah. So was looking up some information about Rick Allen in the database, which she shouldn't have. Rosie said that she was obsessed with the case. I think that's probably a good way to phrase it because she's in every group imaginable on social media talking about it. Dr. Walla admitted to following it closely and particularly in Facebook groups and online chat groups about the case. She became more interested in Alan's arrest. She said she never formally told her bosses about her interest in the case, even when Alan was sent to the DOC. Wow. Dr. Walla admitted to sharing her thoughts with Mr. Allen about what she saw in the online groups. Just wow. Dr. Walla said that he was fragile when he came to the Department of Corrections and had a D mental health code on a scale of A to E, with E being the worst. Then they broke for lunch. Then they resumed court, and this is what we've got. Our afternoon updates from same guy, Max Lewis, channel or Fox 59 anchor reporter. All right, so he says we picked back up with defense attorney Brad Rosie's cross-examination of Dr. Walla, who was the psychologist at Westville Correctional Facility, where Alan was held in solitary confinement for more than a year. I would venture to say it's closer to 2 years, maybe a year and a half. All right, so Rosie asked Dr. Walla about the clothing that Alan was forced to wear while on the self-deletion watch, which was similar to a kimono and apparently referred to as a Flintstone gown, which, if you've ever seen the Flintstones, you can just imagine it in your heads what this gown looks like. Probably not leopard print or whatever, but you get the point. It's probably some bland beige or gray or green, whatever color, and it's just like a almost like a hospital smock, but probably worse. All right, so Mr. or Dr. Wallace, sorry, Dr. Wallace testified that the area where she and Alan had their sessions was not a therapeutic setting. So that also is a big factor. It was revealed that Mr. Allen was institutionalized sometime in 2019 when, and then they went through several of Dr. Walla's reports from the early days of Allen at Westville, where he was being called a baby KILLer by other inmates. So they talked about his time being institutionalized in 2019. Remember, he told his family that he was going to take his own life and he was institutionalized. I'm assuming after that, that's what that's about. And then he went, what was the last point I just made? Oh, people in the inmates, they talked about how the inmates called him a baby KILLer. Allen also said he was being treated as if he was already guilty. Well, that's for sure. In April 2023, Dr. Wallace said he had a grave disability, and that prompted the administering of a Halidol shot to him involuntarily. What the hell is a grave disability requiring this? Sorry, my phone's ringing. I have no idea who that is. What the hell is this grave disability requiring a Halidol shot against his will? I want to know more about that and how that got approved, how that came to be, why was he being given this? I really want to know what led to that. He received several of those shots in 2023. He was continuing to self-harm throughout the summer of 2023. He was running into the wall head first straight on to like, I don't know, injure his head. He would do it, I think, until he like passed out. He was doing other odd things. Like I said, he was eating his feces, drinking toilet water. But then again, were they depriving him of food and water? That's what I want to know. And if he's out of his mind on these drugs, he might be thinking he's eating a hamburger or like a ham sandwich or something. These drugs could be making him do crazy things. Rosie asked at one point about Alan's height, which was measured during the intake process. Dr. Wallace said he was 5'5". Rosie obviously pointing this out because witnesses described Bridge Guy as being tall. Dr. Wallace testified that she believed Alan had a serious mental illness. Okay, but he's not faking. That's fine. But a serious mental illness, or maybe he was just being given drugs and being treated inhumanely, and that made him go crazy. Rosie ended his questions by pointing out that Dr. Walla was so interested in the Delphi case that she at one point visited the crime scene during a day off. Then Steve Mullen, the prosecution's investigator, took the stand again. So, whatever you think of Dr. Walla and her statements that she says were made um, by Alan, I don't believe her as a credible witness. So there's that. All right. So uh, he went on. He went looking at BMV records in response to a jury question. Who's he? Oh, sorry, I skipped something. Rosie ended his questions by pointing out that Dr. Waller was so interested in the Delphi case. Yeah, then Steve Mullen took the stand. Okay. Steve Mullen went looking at BMV records in response to a question about the car seen at the Hoosier Harvest surveillance video that resembled Allen's 2016 Ford Focus. A juror asked Mullen last week if he knew how many other 2016 Ford Focus cars were in the county. He said he didn't. He got records from the BMV that show the only 2016 black Ford Focus SE registered in Carroll County in 2017 was Richard Allen's. There were 8 2016 Ford Focus vehicles of varying models registered in the county in that year. So he's the only one, apparently. But then they go on and say there's 8 more. And from the video, I'm sure you can't tell specifically that it's an SE or what. So they're trying to make it seem like, well, he's the only person that has this particular brand, make, and model. But oh yeah, there's 8 other people who had models similar, but we're not going to mention those. During cross-examination, Mullen admitted he couldn't tell the model of the car in the surveillance video and that the Ford Focus looks similar regardless of what model. So you don't even know what model you have. It might not even be a Ford. Do we know for sure that it is? This is crazy. Defense attorney Jennifer Auger pointed out that the perpetrator could be from another county. That's true too. Last up was Brad Weber, who owns the property near the Monon High Bridge. This guy is important. Oh, I was going to say with Mullen. So remember, Mullen was already on the stand for the state, but he came back on the stand because of this whole, well, I looked it up and Richard Allen's the only Ford Focus, but that kind of backfired when you can't prove that the person lived in the county and you can't prove that the car in the video is a black Ford Focus 2016 SE registered in Carroll County. You can't prove that point. So I think that was kind of stupid to bring him back, but that's what the state did. All right, so last up was Brad Weber, who owns the property near the Monon High Bridge. A road to get to his home runs right under the bridge. He testified that on the day of the homicides, he left work a little after 2 and went straight home, which would put him there around 2:30. So the video ends of Abby and Libby. What time is that? Like early in the early hour of 2. And now we're at 2:30. This guy comes home. But the phone stops moving at like 4. So who's moving the phone? The state has to keep moving their timeline, and you'll see that they do. All right, so the prosecution asks what he drove, and he said a white van. That's important because in his detailed prison confession, he said he was going to R the girls, but saw a van and got scared, so he made them cross the creek. During cross-examination, defense attorney Andrew Baldwin said to Weber, "You didn't drive straight home, did you?" Weber said he did. Baldwin pointed to a statement that he gave to the cops that he went and worked on some ATM machines. Weber got angry and yelled no at Baldwin. Baldwin then ended his questioning, but not before serving Weber with a subpoena on the witness stand for him to come back and testify when the defense presents their case. Oh, damn. So is this guy now potentially a witness, suspect? I don't know. Weber then stepped down. During his opening statement, Baldwin said that Weber was a possible suspect. Interesting. And we really haven't heard of Brad Weber. We've heard of Brad Holder. This is a different person. Brad Holder is the Odinite who is potentially the leader of this other group or one of the, one of the guys in the Delphi Vinlander group that is connected, his son, Logan, was dating Abby. So he's very much connected. So that's a different Brad. This is Brad Logan, or Brad Weber, sorry, Brad Weber, who lives right there by the creek and by near the homicide scene. So one of Weber's guns, which is a Sig Sauer, which would have used the same ammo found at the scene, was tested by state police lab and the result was, wait for it, inconclusive. So he has not been ruled out as a suspect. We're told tomorrow will be quite a lengthy day. Prosecutor McLeland said he intends to play 2+ hours of audio, but didn't specify could be alleged confessions that Allen made on the phone. So that is where he ends it for the day. You guys want a quick read through? Oh crap, where was I with this? All right, so this is from Wish TV. This is again day 11 of court. All right, so court resumed at 9:09 a.m. I like to read you guys at least two different perspectives from the trial because even though there might be repetitive stuff, I think it's good to read because one, it ingrains it in your brain more, and two, you might catch details that you missed or other people caught details that the other person didn't catch and they put it in their article. So I like to read at least two different things. So, all right. So, wishtv.com. This is Kyla Russell's reporting. Oh, she also reported that Nancy Grace was in the courtroom that morning. She didn't stay very long. She only stayed like an hour and a half or something, and then left, and then was reporting on it like she'd been there the whole day. All right. The prosecution asks for a sidebar, which lasts 15 minutes. So, wait, did we miss something? Oh, logistical security issues needed to be addressed, which explained there was a delay. At 9:25 a.m., the jury enters. Judge Gull says the jury again had supervised contacts with their phones, so they were able to, I guess, talk to family with their phones as long as they were in a supervised environment. The state calls clinical psychologist Dr. Monica Walla. She is a contractor and a lead psychologist at the Indiana Department of Corrections. It was, let's say, she was at Westville Correctional Unit where Allen was housed. Walla tells the jury that she handled, let's be past tense, okay, to be accurate. She used to handle the more serious cases at Westville. Wallace says initially it was just her that worked with Allen, but then other professionals, including psychiatrists, began seeing him. Wallace said when she first met Allen, he was unshackled and seated in a cubicle. She said she began seeing him in 2022. She describes Allen as being on the self-deletion watch and was watched every 15 minutes by a self-deletion companion. These originally were inmates and then later became staff. She tells the jury that things had obviously taken a turn, that Allen would have a safety blanket and a kimono outfit. So the Flintstone gown. Walla told the jury that she wanted Allen to have what he needed but couldn't control the conditions of his cell. She said she began sessions with Allen by asking how he was doing. She said she felt he was educated and had done research on his background. So she was researching him before she was treating him. That's probably not a good idea. Or ethical. Wallace said at times he was a good communicator. Wallace told the jury on April 5th, 2023, Allen discussed his case with her unprompted. So he just came right out and said it, apparently, according to her. In her report, she said Allen told her Killed Abby and Libby and became tearful. Wallace said Allen told her he made sure they were no longer alive because he did not want them to suffer. Wallace told the jury that Allen told her his intentions were sexual in nature. He told her he thought the girls were 18 or 19, but thought they could have been as young as 11. That's odd. They were 13 and 14. Wallace said Alan told her he's been selfish all of his life. Alan told her he wanted to apologize to the victim's family. This is all according to Wallace. Wallace said Alan claimed he molested his sister and experimented sexually with male and female children his age when he was a kid. Wallace said that Alan told her this is where he thought his problem started. I don't know if I believe this. Again, this is not on video. This is not recorded. This is all Wallace's notes, which Walla destroyed. She destroyed her notes. So, um, we can't even be sure that these are actually the things that happened in these sessions. Walla told the jury Alan said he had been an alcoholic twice since 2011. Alan told her that he accepted God on March 21st, 2023, and expressed remorse for the crimes. Wallace said Alan expressed appreciation for being clothed and fed at Westville. He asked for Bibles and slept with one. She said he asked to sleep with a chaplain. Weird. Walla told the jury that Walla told the jury that Alan, there's a typo there. Walla told the jury that Alan had a bizarre smile and claimed he had memory lapses. She said he confessed in a very matter-of-fact manner. That's one thing that we're going to hear from. We're going to hear confession tapes, and people who were there listening to them in court said that his affect was just very unemotional and bland, and he didn't have a whole lot of like. That's a zombie. You've created a zombie because you've given him too many drugs, and his brain is fried right now. He can't think. That's what that means to me with these confessions, these bizarre smiles, not having like emotion in his voice. It's all just it doesn't add up with what the state's telling us. So I'm making my own conclusions, and I think he's drugged heavily. Wallace said that she thought he could have been purposeful and instrumental with his confessions. She said she was aware he had written confessions in request and had requested an interview. Wallace said Alan's normal eye contact was sometimes intense and that she saw intermittent gazing, but then would be normal. His emotions were kind of up and down, she said. Walla told the jury he was able to talk about things concisely and chronologically. She said she thought his depression had improved at that point. The prosecution asks Walla about her May 2nd, 2023 report. So I guess this is redirect. The prosecution's asking. Wallace said the meeting with Alan was very tangential and focused on the same topics as before, so they didn't really talk about much. Walla tells the jury that Alan said he took the lives of Abby and Libby, that he will take everyone's lives, and mentions starting World War III. So there's that. Wallace said that she asked Alan if he would take his own life, and Alan told her other inmates tell him to do that. So I believe that bit to be true, that other inmates are telling him to just take his life in prison because I think this was all arranged to make him break emotionally, psychologically, mentally, get him to confess or to take his own life. She said Alan told her he would take himself out by standing on the sink, but said he didn't want to die. Walla told the jury that Alan said, "I am insane," and when asked why he consumed the feces. So when asked why he consumed feces, he responded, "I am insane." I don't know if I believe that though. Wallace said Alan then said he wanted to die. So he didn't, and now he does. Make up your mind. I mean, Dr. Walla, who's telling this story. Walla said Alan did not present as psychotic. So the things that he was doing didn't present as psychotic to her. She thought that at this point, he was in brief psychotic disorder remission. She told to the jury she proved Alan regarding materials and puzzles and that he was receptive in the beginning. That didn't make sense. Wallace said she broke his tablet and that she discussed getting him a television, but he declined. Oh, he broke his tablet. Sorry. Why? Keep slurring my words. Wallace said he broke his tablet and that she discussed getting him a television, but he declined. Walla told the jury that there was no indication of hallucinations and that Alan had disordered speech. So they're saying he was just fine. He didn't have any hallucinations and the drugs weren't affecting his speech or anything like that, which we have to believe Dr. Walla, who's in every Facebook group imaginable for this case. Again, Wallace said on May 3rd that Alan wanted to call his wife, but the call did not go through. Alan told her on February 13th, 2017, he went to see his parents on the morning of the homicides. He decided not to go with to lunch with his mom, sorry, and decided to drink 3 beers and went to the bridge. He told Walla he saw the girls and he wanted to them. He then followed the girls, and while walking, a bullet fell from his gun. Then he told the girls down the hill. He originally told investigators he wanted to R the girls. He saw a van and got scared, then telling the girls to cross the creek. Alan then said he cut their throats and covered their bodies with branches. So that's apparently his story, what he told Kathy. Walla told the jury that he almost seemed relieved. She said Alan said that if he did die, he wanted his wife to know that he loved her. That's so sad and sweet. Wallace said Alan kept saying he didn't want to miss Easter. That's weird, too. Well, I mean, maybe if Easter was coming up and that was in his mind and he's been really religious now. I don't know. So there's just things like out of place and out of turn that he's saying. Like, I just don't want to miss Easter. Was there more context there or what? Wallace said Alan had no psychotic symptoms. Wallace showed a document from May 5th, 2023 that showed that Alan went from being constantly watched to being a close watch. She said Alan went back to being watched every 15 minutes and that his signals improved. The jury was then shown a document from May 9th, 2023, in which Alan said to Walla, I just want to sign my confession. Walla said Alan mentioned self harm, snapping his neck, and planning his last meal. Walla said he did not indicate that he was exhibiting psychotic signs or symptoms. After report on May 10th, 2023 is shown to the jury, Walla told the jury that this visit began okay, but Alan was upset he couldn't use the phone. Walla got him a phone and he called his wife. Walla told the jury she left the room, but that Alan said he wanted to call her back to say he did it. Ay, ay, ay. Walla told the jury Alan called back and asked if his wife and family loved him. I took Abby's and Libby's life, he said on the phone, according to Walla. Walla told the jury that his wife Kathy told him stop saying that, and the phone shut off. Walla said Alan told her after the call that Kathy did not believe him. Walla said he was affectionate to Kathy on the phone. The next report shown to the jury was from May 11th, 2023. Walla said Alan started the meeting by saying that he wanted closure and wanted to apologize to the families and that he wanted to go to heaven and wanted to die and say bye to his family. She told the jury he indicated he felt his family did not want him to contact them. So that was the morning. You guys want the afternoon here? Okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry, this one's a longer one. So court resumed at 11:08 a.m. and Dr. Monica Walla resumed her testimony in direct examination. The prosecution asks about Allen's physical appearance in November 2022. She tells the jury he was about 250 pounds and had began refusing meals and over-exercising. She said the exercising seemed positive at first. Walla tells the jury that if you miss 3 meals, they don't report it. If you miss 4, they have to report it. She said Allen was mindful not to miss the 4th meal. Walla references another report from November 10th, 2022. She said Allen said he felt he was a burden and didn't understand who he should be speaking with about his case because he had not been assigned a public defender. At that time, no, he hadn't. That was shortly after he had just been incarcerated. The next report, shown from April 7th, 2023, Walla told Allen that he had confessed and told him it was not in his best interest that it get to the media. It was not in his best interest to talk about it because it could get to the media, is what is what they're trying to say there in that sentence, but it was worded poorly. All right, so Walla told the jury that she felt like she was being more blatant with his confusion. So he was faking his confusion and being more and more blatant with it. She said she felt he was purposeful being that way, faking it. Whatever, Dr. Walla. Walla told the jury that Allen said that he didn't sign anything, right? He probably didn't want to sign anything. He wanted to make sure that he wasn't signing away his civil rights. And he was being confused and lied to by people. The next report is from April 10th, 2023. Walla tells the jury that she noticed faking symptoms. She said that Allen was naked during this meeting and there were papers on the floor and he was doing unknown things to his genitals and talking about his wife. Walla tells the jury that the papers on the floor were the discovery paperwork for the case. Walla told the jury it appeared he received the discovery around the time he started confessing. She said the prison warden did not want other incarcerated individuals to see the discovery papers, and that is why the guards started watching him instead of other inmates. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. Why don't you remedy it by finding a place for his papers or letting him view his papers and then disposing of them properly so inmates can't get them or something, I mean, there's a way to do this where he's not being watched 24/7. There's other options. The next report is from April 12th, 2023. Wallace said she noticed Allen was masturbating, clapping, banging his head, and naked. She said he refused to wear his kimono. She said she felt like his behavior was done in order to get something. Another report was shown, like she shouldn't even be opining on that it was done to get something. That's total speculation there, but okay. Another report was shown to the jury from April 13th, 2023. Walla told the jury that Allen's behavior was escalating, that he was laying in and consuming his feces. So by April, which is when they start giving him Maladol, he's doing these odd things. She said a psychiatrist offered medication and Allen refused. She said the psychiatrist said Allen didn't qualify for an emergency injection. It was at this time that Dr. Walla told the jury that Allen's watch changed from close to constant. She said she thought he was having an emotional breakdown related to the discovery paperwork. She said she felt like he was faking it. Walla told the jury it was getting to the point where it almost doesn't matter whether he is faking it or not because he is deteriorating. Another report is shown to the jury from April 17th, 2023. Walla told the jury that Allen's window was greasy and dirty, and that he was standing in his cell with his eyes closed praying. She said he agreed to come out of his cell. Walla told the jury it seemed like he switched from bizarre to coherent. She said he kept his eyes closed for the session. He said he was having nightmares. Walla told the jury, Allen said, I just want to tell the truth. I am afraid I lied so much. She said Allen told her he did vulgar and disgusting things. Wallace said Allen told her the last thing he remembered was falling asleep and activating nuclear war. So that sounds like the memories of a cognitive man. He just started a nuclear war from his solitary confinement cell after being drugged up and put to sleep. Wallace said Allen received involuntary medication on April 14th, and she said that improvement was seen in Allen. I disagree. I think it totally correlates with behavior. Another report was shown from April 21st, 2023. Wallace said she felt Allen's odd behavior not to be genuine. So again, she's speculating and saying he's faking with no reason, no examples as to why she believes that he's faking here and why she doesn't believe him to be genuine. She just says, "Well, I didn't think it was real." Like, okay, well, why? Tell us your medical opinion as to why. But don't hear that. A report from April 25th, 2023 said that Allen denied experiencing anything like this in the past and thought this could be due to him not taking his medication, including Prozac. So he was on a medication before he went into prison. They don't carry the same medication, so every inmate who has depression, anxiety, blah, 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 they all get whatever state issued medication they have for that. So if you're on Prozac and the state medication is Zoloft, you're getting Zoloft. I don't even know. Are they the same thing? Whatever. That you only get the certain brand that they have, and it's probably a generic, and it probably doesn't work as well, and it probably is less effective. And regardless, it's going to be a huge change to the individual taking it. If you take Prozac every single day of your life for the last however many years, and then suddenly you stop, you're going to have withdrawal symptoms. And then you're going to be switching to this other medication, which is going to also give you side effects and symptoms. And all of that is going to affect his ability to make a confession, at least coherently, on his own free will, without without something impeding his judgment. All right, so the next report showed Walla observed Allen in his bed naked, and the cell smelled, and he asked for a shower. She told the jury that his awareness on his smell was a good sign. Okay. She said Allen told her he had not been showering because he was selfish. It makes no sense. She said that he went on about flushing the Bible down the toilet. She said, I didn't see him as psychotic. It was possible he was severely depressed. Why is the man trying to flush his toilet or flush his Bible down the toilet unless there's something mentally unwell there? At 11:53 a.m., the defense began to cross-examine Walla. Defense attorney Brad Rosie asked Walla about her career history, and Walla said that she is no longer working for the IDOC and she is now working at a different facility through a contractor. Rosie tells the jury that Walla was following the Delphi homicide case far before treating Mr. Allen. That she followed the case on Facebook through podcasts, and Walla agreed to that. Rosie tells the jury that Walla used the IDOC database to find information about the case and that the IDOC is investigating her for that. So she's under investigation right now for using their database to look up things about Richard Allen and his case. He says that Rosie says this is why she is not at the IDOC right now. He tells the jury Walla was contributing and recommending on social media where to get information earlier than 2024. So she was telling other people on social media what content creators to listen to about this case. So, what does that tell you? Rosie tells the jury that Walla was communicating 2 hours or commuting Walla was commuting 2 hours every day to Westville for work and listened to Delphi podcasts on the way there. At some point, Rosie said she shut all her social media accounts down. That was when she got busted by all the sleuths out there. Walla tells the jury that she told IDOC of her interest in the case whenever they found out Allen was coming to Westville. Rosie says she did not. He tells the jury that Walla was sharing her thoughts with Allen while he was in custody. Rosie asks Walla about clinical testing experienced by Allen, says he was diagnosed with a depression disorder when he got to Westville. Rosie asks Walla if he thought Allen suffered from department personality disorder. Walla says it is possible. She says Walla was fragile when he came to Westville. So it's possible he suffers from dependent personality disorder. Rosie asks Walla about the condition of Allen's cell. She says they wouldn't let him out of that cell. Rosie asks if Allen was a code D of mental health. She confirms. In the afternoon, Allen's defense makes new push to tell the Delphi homicides about Odinism. So they did put in, I'm not going to read through this, they did put in another motion for allowing third party culprits, at least mentioning them because the door has been wide open. It's been opened from the state by talking about the sticks and the replacement on the sticks and what the meaning of the sticks are. And they've talked about Brad Weber. They've talked about um, Ron Logan, I think. There's other suspects that have been mentioned by name by the state without any doing of the defense whatsoever. It's the door's been opened, and we're going to find out and see if Judge Gull is going to allow it. She originally said, I don't want anybody talking about these things during trial. That was what the motion to eliminate was for, to eliminate any talk of those things. But since the door was opened now by the state, they should be able to get this in. So they did file a motion on that. Was there more to the story? Yes. Okay. Jeez, this was a long day. So Allen's psychologist admits to going to the High Bridge. So court returned from recess at 1:33. So this is after lunch, according to Kyla Russell, News 8. Kyla Russell. Dr. Monica Walla returned to the stand discussing Allen's mental condition during his 13 months of Westville. Allen's defense attorney, Brad Rosie, continued his cross examination, asking about what discovery is in this case, and later asked her to elaborate on Allen's condition when he was booked into Westville on November 18th, 2022. Walla said that Allen had symptoms of depression and confirmed that Allen was considered a safekeeper, meaning they were keeping him in this solitary housing for safekeeping, for his own safety, supposedly, which is an inmate transferred from jail to prison without a present conviction. She added, there may have been other safekeepers at Westville, but they didn't stand out. According to Walla, Allen did not have orientation or training when he arrived at Westville. And additionally, usually people pre-conviction defendants don't go to prison, but they sent him to a prison for whatever reason, stating that they needed to keep him safe from the jail. I don't know. So that was that. So Walla described his counseling cubicle as a 3 foot by 3 foot square, and Rosie called it a cage. She says it's all we have. Wallace said the cubicle, once he's in the cage, they would take the shackles off. Walla confirmed that Alan's transport to the cubicle, or dog cage, as Rosie put it, was not a pleasant experience. In December 2022, Wallace said that Alan pushed for his innocence. In a later report, Alan told Walla he could not get a toothbrush from commissary and could not visit his wife. He said he felt that he was being treated worse than other convicted crimes or criminals. He also expressed concern about roaches in the facility. Lovely. Here, Rosie asked Dr. Walla to confirm that Westville was in the process of building a new facility and tearing the original down, which she did. Wallace said in a report from April 4th, 2023, that Alan was experiencing self deletion ideation. On April 14th, she ruled that Alan had a grave disability, whatever the hell that means, which prompted discussion to involuntarily inject Alan. This right here, I want to know more about that. I think she should, I think there should be an investigation. Whoever does investigations into therapists, they need to do it into her and see what else was going on and was she being told to treat him with Halidol or something else. I don't know. Walla did not specify what he would be injected with, but later reported that his cognitive state was getting worse. Allen received his first injection sometime in April, a second on May 18th, and a third shot on June 4th. According to Walla, the shots were supposed to last for 30 days. Rosie told the court that Allen confided in him. Oh, in Rosie. Sorry. Rosie told the court that Alan confided in him that the shots weren't working and added on May 18th, Alan had two black eyes. Walla continued saying Alan's third shot was different from the first two. This one aimed at stopping the head banging, so that's what they're going to blame the black eyes on, I guess. Walla said Alan's eyes were bulging. Rosie added that they were bulging out of his head as a result of his depression. In August, Walla noticed Alan's eyes were no longer protruding out of his head like they had been in the past 4 months. In November 2023, Alan weighed about 174 pounds, so he lost a ton of weight compared to 250. Wallace said she didn't have any idea what the discovery documents included. Bullshit. She also mentioned a psychiatrist named Dr. Martin who helped treat Alan and helped administer medicine. Wallace said that Martin helped with the backlog of mental health care needed at Westville. Rosie then said that Walla destroyed notes she shouldn't have, prompting a back and forth between the attorney and the doctor. Do you see why it's so important to read multiple perspectives? Because there's so many different things that this person said that that person didn't say, and things that person said that this person didn't say. And it's like, you got to try to take it all in and make it all make sense in the end. Um, where was I? All right, so Walla continued, confirming Alan had a mental illness, and it's reasonable to believe solitary confinement contributed to that. Great. So, I mean, at least you're admitting it, and you shouldn't have kept him there for more than 15 days. Department of Corrections policy states that inmates should not be kept in solitary confinement for more than 30 days if they have a severe mental illness. Richard was in solitary for 13 months. I feel like it might have been more than that, but okay, so his first, I guess maybe for the first couple weeks he wasn't. Like he was arrested end of October, beginning of November, but he got transferred here on the 18th. So there probably was like a week into time or something in between where he was at the county jail and they transferred him over. Walla told the jury she questioned the authenticity of Alan's behavior in prison. That admits that she now questioned if Alan was faking it. So now she's not sure if Alan was faking it. In response to questions from the state, Walla said the written notes from her meeting with Alan were always properly put into a Word document and that she had to toss the handwritten notes due to the nature of the case because it was so secret. Why didn't you lock them up? Walla then told the jury she was interested in the case prior to treating Alan. She said she spoke with two supervisors before taking Alan as a patient, so she tried to get this case. The supervisors did not have an issue with Walla's interest in the case. She confirmed and added that Alan came to the prison on Prozac. His dosage was later adjusted. So they knew going in that Walla might have had some kind of ulterior motive for treating Richard Allen, and her supervisors allowed it. So we need to go and talk to her supervisors and find out why. She mentioned she told Allen he had supporters on the outside, which was in reference to Allen saying he was SA'd. What? Which he said he had supporters on the outside, which was in reference to him saying he was SA'd. So he's either saying things totally out of context or she's making some weird crap up from her notes that got properly put into a Word document after she destroyed the handwritten notes. Can't make this stuff up, guys. So when asked about her interest in the case, she said, I mean, there's always interest in that, or I mean, there's always that interest, she said. And she'd looked things up in the database for personal reasons. Walla then admits to visiting High Bridge in Delphi, the infamous bridge on the Monon High Trail, where Libby German and Abby Williams were last seen before their deaths. The jury asked questions about Alan's mental illness, inquiring if brief psychotic disorders can reappear over time and if he knew the consequences of not eating 4 meals. Wallace said psychotic symptoms of the disorders can appear after going away, and Alan did know the consequences. To, according to Walla, he knew the consequences, saying they discussed it at one point. The court recessed for a quick break around 3:10. Jeez, Lou, now they come back. Steve Mullen is then brought to the so Walla's done. They bring Steve Mullen to the stand. He told the jury the only 2016 Ford Focus registered in the county that year was Allen's. He also said there were those other 8. He said the video from Hoosier Harvest Store doesn't reveal the model of the car, but that he believes. So he doesn't even know that this is the perpetrator's car. It's just a car he believes is the perpetrator's, and he can't tell the model. Like I said, maybe he doesn't even know the make. State prosecutor Nick McLeland called Brad Weber to the stand. Brad Weber is the Carroll County resident who lives off County Road West, just outside of Delphi. He owns the property near the Monon High Bridge where the girls' lives were taken. Weber worked first shift at Subaru near Lafayette and was at work on February 13th, the day of the homicides. Weber said that he was at work from 5:41 a.m. to 2:02 p.m. and his drive home was approximately 20 to 25 minutes, making it about 2:22 to 25. Weber or 2:27, 2:25 to 2:27. No, what? I don't know. You guys can do the math. I don't know what I said. All right, Weber told the jury he drove a van, a Ford Econoline van, to work on February 13th. Defense attorney Andrew Baldwin asked Weber if he drove straight home on the 13th, to which Weber said he dropped off a trailer. Baldwin said that was earlier in the day, adding that Weber originally told police that he had worked on the ATM machines after work. So we're getting three separate stories. One, he came straight home. Two, he dropped off a trailer. And three, he was working on ATM machines after work. So how can we trust this guy and his timeline? This prompted Weber to scream, "That's not correct," and to deny Baldwin's claim multiple times. Baldwin then gave Weber a subpoena and court adjourned for Wednesday. So that was just all day 11. I don't think this one's going to be as long, hopefully. Give me 1 second. I need some water. All right, that's better. So let's move on to day 12 of the Delphi trial. This is where we're going to hear some confessions, and the state's going to rest, and then the defense is going to begin their case. So there's a lot still that's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to be quite as long, the things that I chose. So the other one, the Wish, gives a lot of good details, and it's a rather lengthy update sometimes. All right, so this is from Dave Bangert. He has his own, I think it's a blog, I don't know, his own website. Based-in-Lafayette.com is his website. So he says, day 12, the state rests. The prosecution's case against Richard Allen ends with his own words, with calls from a prison call telling the family that he took Abby Williams and Libby German's lives, plus a day 12 something, a day 12 wrap. So the prosecution rested Thursday. This is actually a courtroom sketch. I shared this on my Twitter X. It's a picture of Richard Allen from Lee Bushka. Make this a little bit bigger for you guys. All right. So the prosecution rested Thursday afternoon after 12 days of testimony in the Delphi homicide trial, closing its case with a series of prison phone calls Richard Allen made over 8 months, telling family members that he was sorry, but he needed them to know that he'd taken the lives of the Delphi eighth graders, Abby Williams and Libby German, on February 13th, 2017. In the courtroom Thursday, Kathy Allen went in the gallery and Richard Allen rubbed his eyes as prosecutors played phone calls, placing, I'm sorry, did I say went? I think I said went. Kathy wept and Richard Allen rubbed his eyes as prosecutors played phone calls that were placed from the Westville Correctional Facility from Richard Allen to his family after he was arrested. All right, so across 8 recordings, the phone calls dialed from Ricky and roughly less than 5 minutes. Allen tried to convince his family that he took the lives of the girls as they pushed back with worries about his medication dosages. So this is very troublesome. His family is going on and on and on about, no, you didn't do this. They're messing with your mind. They're messing with your medication in these calls. So it's kind of damning for the state in a way, because it proves the defense's theory that, he was not in his right state of mind to be giving these confessions that Judge Gull never should have allowed in to begin with. They pushed back with worries about the medication dosages and what his time in a state prison was messing with him. So they thought that they were messing with his mind. His wife, Kathy, and mother, Janice, repeatedly tell Alan that he's not thinking straight and that he needs to quit calling them to talk that way. He also says in multiple calls, or in, multiple times in multiple calls, he says that he thinks he's losing his mind. So in the same phone call that he's saying he took the girls' lives, he also says he thinks he's losing his mind and he doesn't remember and he maybe did it and he doesn't know and things like that. So he's like all back and forth in his what he's saying. So the collection came from more than 700 phone calls and other messages Allen made that were constantly monitored by Brian Harshman, a master trooper with the Indiana State Police and the designated phone guy on the Delphi case. He listened to all these 700 calls and messages from Richard Allen to his family and friends. So the collection also came amid 3 consecutive days of testimony about some of the more than 60 confessions investigators say Allen made to his family and to prison officials and guards. Among them, this call to Kathy Allen on April 3rd, 2023. Richard Allen begins by saying, I just want to apologize to you. I did it. No, I did it. Kathy says, No, you didn't. He says, I double L'd Abby and Libby. She says, No, you didn't, dear. He says, Yes, I did. She says, You're not feeling well. They messed up your meds or something. He says, I think I did. Then Kathy says, They are screwing with you there. I'm going to get to the bottom of it. There's something wrong, but you didn't do it. You said you didn't do it. Alan says, Maybe I did. Does that sound like something somebody would say if they were the person who did it? I mean, he says maybe. And this call to Kathy Allen on May 10th, 2023. So, does that all sound like a confession? I mean, I don't know. He says, yes, so I did it, but then he says, maybe I did it. He backtracks and says, maybe I did it. In this call to Kathy Allen on May 10th, Richard Allen says, I need to tell you something. I need you to know I did this. Kathy says, What? No, no, you didn't. There's no way, dear. There's no way. He says, I hope you still love me. She says, I do. You're not well. You don't need to say something you didn't do. He says, I'm just trying to be at peace with things. Then the May 17th phone call to his mother, Richard says, Did Kathy tell you that I did it? Janice, his mother, says, We're not going to discuss this, okay? Just saying it doesn't mean you did it. And Richard Allen says, Well, it does when I did. I feel like who was there if he was so, out of touch with reality and eating feces and drinking toilet water? Who is controlling his iPad to make these phone calls is what I want to know. From June 5th, in a call to Kathy, his wife, he says, I feel like I lost my mind and gone to hell. Kathy says, We're all living it right now. Richard Allen says, you know I done it, right? She says, I don't want to talk about that, okay? Another call to Kathy. Richard says, I did it. Then there's a long pause, and he says, Are you still there? She says, Yes, dear, but you didn't do it. He says, Why do you say that? She says, Why do you say that? He says, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel I lost my mind. Honey, you can't tell me and talk like this. Or you can't call me and talk like this. He says, I'm scared, baby. I can't talk to you right now. And Rick Allen says, I'm probably going to have to KILL myself now. I guess I'm just going to have to stop calling. I'm sorry. Kathy says, You can't call me if you're going to talk like that. Brad Rosie, one of Allen's attorneys, unsuccessfully attempted to force the prosecution to play other phone calls made on the same day when he said Allen professed his innocence to family members and told them that he was not sure how long he would stay lucid and he believed he was being mentally tortured and that he was losing his mind. Without that context, Rosie argued the jury wouldn't get the full story. And Judge Gull would not allow this other recording that supposedly he's lucid and says, I don't know how long I'm going to be lucid, but you got to believe me, I'm being mentally tortured. They're drugging me, and I didn't do this thing. You got to believe me, and no matter what I say, you got to believe I didn't do it. I want to hear that. I want to hear that tech or that message. And why can't we hear it? It's absolutely relevant and has to do with the same conversations of the same day. According to like rules of evidence, it most likely should come in. But of course, Judge Gull makes it like, well, you can get it in your case, meaning she wants the defendant to, whatchamacallit, what's the word? Testify. Sorry, I'm distracted. Trying to turn my blanket back on. It turned cold. Cold day in Chicago today. It's getting to be fall. Um, yeah, so what was I saying? She wants Richard Allen, Judge Gall wants Richard Allen to testify about and to bring it in that way to get him on the stand or something. But of course, they're not going to want to put him on the stand. So they might be able to get it in through another witness potentially, or maybe they can recall Harshman if that's allowed. I don't know. All right, so it's like there's one long conversation over the course of 5 hours, Rosie said. It's one of those situations where we either play all of them or we play none of them. So it's part of the context. And the jury is missing that important piece of context. Gold said she agreed with the prosecutor. Oh, my. So surprised there. That the calls were complete in that they weren't cut from their original length. So that they were like their own pieces of evidence, so they didn't need to be included with the other one. She said it was up to the defense whether they wanted to introduce those calls as they present their case, meaning you're going to have to call Richard Allen to the stand or his wife or his mom or somebody, whoever, the dad, I mean, they call the dad to get that information out. Harshman characterized Allen's voice as calm, subdued, and solemn in the phone calls. There's a picture of Bridge Guy, in case you forgot. Blue jacket, blue jeans, kind of looks like brown shoes, a reddish brown shirt underneath. It could even be black with the sun kind of on it, weird. Um, and a hat. Looks like a scarf too. Not a green scarf though. We do know there was a green scarf, remember, found at the scene that's not even related to the scene. We don't know where that came from. All right, so later on the stand, Harshman testified that the description of the homicides offered to his prison psychologist, Dr. Walla, in May offered a bit of information that he said that only someone involved in the crime would know. Dr. Monica Walla, who treated Allen when he was being held in Westville Correctional Facility, testified Wednesday that Allen then laid a version of her, or that Allen then laid a version for her of what happened on the day of the crimes. He'd gone to his mom's house near Peru that morning, but decided not to stay for lunch. He brought a six-pack of beer on the way home and drank three. He bundled up and went to the Monon High Bridge Trail in Delphi. He saw Abby and Libby and followed them to the Monon High Bridge. He said he did something with his gun and made an unspent cartridge come out. Later found his Later found by police at the crime scene. But where he says he did that doesn't match up to where the bullet was found. Wallace said he told her he intended to R the girls, but he saw a van nearby, meaning this Brad Weber van that we hear from after this. This van drives by, which scares him and it stops him in the middle of his plan, forcing him to cross Deer Creek with the girls. So he forces the girls across the creek. He cut Abby and Libby's necks and made sure that they were dead, in essence, to save himself somehow. He covered the girls' bodies with some sticks and he left, avoiding the Monon High Bridge Trail so he wouldn't be seen and went on living his life, which makes absolutely no sense. Because if he got caught, like, just run away, leave the girls alone. Like, why are you going to make them cross a bridge, end their lives without the R that he wanted to do? That was his intention in the first place. Like, none of this makes sense. But okay. Brad Weber, a Delphi resident who lives just southeast of the south end of the Monon High Bridge, testified Wednesday that he owned a 2000 Ford Econovan that he drove to and from his shift at the Subaru in Indiana Automotive plant in Lafayette. Weber testified that he got off his shift at 2:02 p.m. February 13th and drove home. He said it took 20 to 25 minutes to get home. Harshman estimated that would have Weber coming home around 2:27 to 2:30. So Libby German shot a final video. This is the Bridge Guy video, the one capturing the image of the voice of the suspect known as Bridge Guy, which also doesn't make sense because Bridge Guy is supposedly like really far off in the distance, and then you hear him moments later on the call, which makes me think there might have been multiple people surrounding them or someone laying in wait for them if this Bridge Guy, this down the hill voice even exists. So we know it was it was like AI generated, and we don't even know if it's a real voice. Oh, this whole case is so strange. Nothing's adding up, and I blame law enforcement. Law enforcement, I think, is hiding something here. So, prosecutor Nick McLeland played a version of the video that had enhanced audio, the Bridge Guy video, that smoothed and brought forward the voice of the man who told the girls guys down the hill. Remember, this is AI generated or at least manipulated, so I don't even trust that it's originally on the original video. So McClellan asked Harshman, given the time he'd spent listening to more than 700 phone calls Allen placed from the state prison or county jail cell, whether he recognized the voice in the enhanced Bridge Guy video. And Harshman said he was convinced it was the voice of Richard Allen, which that should never even be a thing. He shouldn't be able to opine on Richard Allen's voice. He's not a voice expert. He didn't do analysis on the voice. He didn't run it through some kind of software to analyze it. He has no idea. And the Bridge Guy voice, as we know it, has been altered. So, how can you tell that that's Bridge Guy? This is just so wrong. There's so many things wrong with this trial, with this case altogether. All right, so Rosie objected, questioning whether Harshman had training in voice patterns, but was overruled by the judge. So you can't even ask what your expertise is in analyzing voices, which clearly he doesn't have any. This judge is so awful. On Wednesday, Allen's attorney had already challenged Weber, asking him where he was the week before and whether he came straight home that day from the Subaru plant in Lafayette. Andrew Baldwin, one of the defense attorneys, had asked Weber whether he'd told police in 2017 that he'd made stops to service his ATM machines that day. Weber said on the stand that wasn't true. Baldwin put a subpoena in Weber's hands while he was on the stand to testify. Rosie asked Harshman whether his timeline featuring Allen getting spooked by a van would fall apart if it's known that Weber didn't come straight home from work, even if it was just like stopping for gas or lingering in the parking lot. Does that change the timeline? Rosie asked, if Brad Weber is not a credible human being, would that change your conclusion? Harshman says no, that makes no sense. There was a video here. I'll get into that. So there was a video from Cass County Jail that the prosecution wanted to bring in with apparently Allen exhibiting confrontational behavior at the jail in Logansport, kicking out doors, screaming at staff, and having to be restrained. Judge Gull denied this coming in, thank goodness, but this was something that they wanted to bring in, and this just happened. I think this was like a more recent video too, but it's not relevant and doesn't come in. The defense now opens. So the defense has now opened their case in chief. The first witness for the defense was Cheyenne Mill, who testified that she and a friend, Shelby Duncan, hiked the Monon High Bridge Trail on February 13th. Mill said that she and Dunn had done a lap at France Park near Logansport before deciding to hike in Delphi the next day. That day, sorry. Mill said they arrived by 2:50ish, parked at the Mears entrance to the trails off County Road 300 North, and we're walking towards the Monenhigh Bridge when she fielded a call from her boyfriend at 3:12. Earlier testimony put Abby and Libby at the Mears entrance when they were dropped off at 1:30. Libby later posted a video of Abby on the Monenhigh Bridge at 2:07. So there you have it. 2:07 is the video with Libby on the bridge. Mills said they walked the length, and this woman is showing up around 2:50-ish. She says 2:50-ish, 3:12. She gets a call from her boyfriend. Mills said they walked the length of the abandoned rail bridge, stopped long enough to go to the bathroom on the far end, and walked back to the one end of the bridge platforms. She said that they saw an overweight man on the trail who didn't acknowledge them, and two friends who did realize would be, or who they didn't realize would be there that day. They saw two friends who they didn't realize would be there that day. Social media posts and camera stamps had them on the bridge at 3:55 p.m. As they left, Mills said they saw another man and woman parked at the Mears entrance who were acting frantic. Was that possibly um, Derek German and maybe Kelsey or someone with him, uh, looking for Libby and Abby, potentially? I don't know. Mill testified that while they were on the bridge, they didn't hear or see anything unusual. She also testified that she reportedly had been on the bridge and trail a day after the girls were found. She said police got back to them 2 weeks later. Mill testified that she wrote to police several years later that she was still available if they needed her for information, but that she deleted her social media presence after vigilantes trying to solve it from their couch discovered her pictures from the bridge and harassed and doxed her. So that's interesting. And finally, I think this is the last part of, yeah, the last part of this article. The Google search history tied to Allen's email account has been admitted into evidence, or at least Judge Gull is allowing this evidence in. So, Gull allowed a list of Google searches from Allen's email account after December 16th, 2022. So, this is well after the homicides. The list of Google searches from Allen's email account after December 16, 2022. He was arrested in November of 2022. So, oh, they got the search warrant then okay. That's when they got it. All right. So, Allen's defense team had objected, questioning whether prosecutors could show that Allen was the only one with access to the account, because obviously it was could be a shared computer. His wife could be using it. His a daughter who could have been searching things, and you could have guests, friends use your computer. Who knows? The list turned over by Google on February 1st included searches ranging from May 2020 to the days before his arrest in October of 2022. Among them, Man Held Hostage by Teen, movie about a man being held against his will. Maybe he's looking for a specific movie. 65 plus best kidnapping and hostage movies ever made. I mean, just because there's a list of it right there of 65 plus, I mean, it's a list of movies. That doesn't make him guilty of homicide. Story about rebuilding Monenhigh Bridge. Shooting ranges near me. Again, not guilty. Should I die now? What's the most? We already know he had ideations of self-deletion there. So I don't know how we're using that against him as evidence that he's guilty for these crimes. What's the most horrifying thing I can watch? What's the more insidious thing I can watch? Various searches for Delphi, various Delphi homicide updates, and Delphi homicides 1.2 million to restore jail. I mean, he lives in the area, so he might be interested in Delphi. He's obviously, he knows about the homicides. He was there that day, so he might have an interest in the case and want to know the updates. So there's that. Just saying. And then they talk about the Odin thing and a bunch of other stuff. So, all right. So that was a good roundabout update for the 12th now, the yesterday, day 12. Um, let's keep going here. I have Caitlin Kendall from WRTV. We're gonna follow her tweets here. The prosecution played 8 recorded telephone conversations involving Allen. The conversations range from November 2022 to June 2023, when Allen was being held in the Westville Correctional Facility. McLeland outlined that Allen was making incriminating statements during those calls. Jurors heard Allen tell his wife that he KI double L'd Abby and Libby. Kathy would tell him, "No, you didn't. You're not well. You didn't do those things." In other calls, Allen was heard saying he thought he did it, meaning the crimes against the girls, but he also felt like he was losing his mind. He also expressed thoughts of taking his own life. Several of the phone calls were to Allen's mother. He didn't talk specifically about the homicides, but did talk about how he feels the system was taking his life, withering him away, and told them he was losing his mind. He stressed to them that he would never do what he was accused of doing and that he felt mentally tortured. The state's final witness, Master Trooper Harshman, he analyzed more than 700 recorded phone calls made by Allen. Harshman also monitored his tablet, in-self video, and Allen's review and reviewed Allen's behavioral reports or something. Um, he testified that in his estimation, the voice of the man is Bridge Guy, or the voice of Bridge Guy is Allen. Phone call on November 14th, 2022, Allen to his wife. The phone call begins with Allen telling his wife Kathy that he's sorry, but he just needs to tell her the investigators. He just needs her to tell the investigators that he will tell them whatever they want. Whatever they want me to say, I'll tell them, commented Allen. I don't want you to worry about me. All I do is worry about you, he said to her. He then referenced wanting to take his own life. Allen could be heard crying during the call. His wife, Kathy, attempted to console him by saying, "You're okay, you're okay." They then tell each other how much they love each other. I wish I could see you one more time. I'll see you in my next life. I swear I will. You take care of me. Oh my God. Hold on. Sorry. I had to do a little yelling at the dog, so he lay down. All right. He says, sorry, Rick says, I wish I could see you one more time. I'll see you in the next life. I swear I will. You take care of the family for me. That's heartbreaking. All right, phone call on April 2nd, 2023. Allen to his mother. His mother said it was good to hear from him. Allen asked his mother how long she had been going to church, and he wanted to know what church she was attending. He cried as she talked and expressed his happiness to hear her answers. Allen told his mother on that call that he found God and turned his life to Christ on March 21st, 2023. He told his mother that he hasn't slept much, but would eventually. He really wanted to reach his wife. He ended the call with, "Love you too, Mom. Bye." Phone call on April 3rd, Allen to his wife. The phone call starts with Allen saying, "Hey, how are you?" She says, "Yes," or he says, "Hey, are you there?" She says, "Yes, babe." He says, "I did it." She says, "What?" He says, "No, I did it. I double L'd Abby and Libby." She says, "No, you didn't." He says, "Yes, I did." She says, "No, you didn't. You're not feeling well. Why did you say that?" He says, "Because I think I did." She says, "No, you didn't. They're messing with your mind. Don't ever say that you did it." He says, "I think I did." She says, "No, why would you say that?" "I think I did. I'll say I did it. I don't know. I'll say I did. I don't know." Like somebody's telling him to say this, I think. Kathy's response was, "Exactly. You don't know. There was something wrong. They're trying to get you to say you did. I want to apologize to the families," he says. Kathy says, "Just don't talk anymore." He says, "I'm sorry." She says, "Don't talk anymore. I'm hanging up." And then the call ended. There were other conversations where Richard Allen expressed he was losing his mind. He said he wanted to take his own life and that he wanted Kathy to understand that he did it, referring to the crimes. Kathy repeatedly told her husband he wasn't well. I think I lost my mind. You should know I did, babe." Again, Alan added that he did not understand what was going on. Kathy says, "Neither do I." It's just everything he says. He's like, "I did it, but I think I lost my mind. I don't know what's going on, but I did it. I need you to know I did it." It's like they keep telling him over and over again, "You need to tell her that you want her to know that you did it. You want her to know you did it. You need to tell her you did it." So like he's getting brainwashed to say the same thing over and over again, is my opinion. There were several breaks during the afternoon session. One was to allow Special Judge Fran Gull to watch a 30-minute video in her chambers. The state hoped to enter the video as evidence, but the defense argued it was unaware of it and said it was irrelevant to the case. After watching the video, which reportedly showed Allen acting out in the Cass County Jail and becoming irate towards the guards, Judge Gull sided with the defense and did not allow it to be played. Prosecution rested after Judge Gull ruled on the video, and the defense team for Richard Allen promptly called its first witness to the stand. The defense calls Cheyenne Mill. She said she was on the trail on February 13th, the day Abby and Libby disappeared. She said she saw a man on the trail who was overweight and did not speak to her when she said hi. She also testified to taking photographs along the trail that day, and she shared those photographs with investigators. The defense calls up next Teresa Liebert. Why did that text or tweet go away? The defense calls Teresa Liebert. She was shown a map of the area and she pointed out the private road owned by her neighbor, Brad Weber. She also pointed to the location of her home. Liebert said she saw someone who appeared to be strange standing near the mailboxes, but she could not see his face or what he was wearing. Upon cross-examination, the prosecution asked, "So you are telling us around 8:30 a.m. on this day you and your husband were coming home and saw a man you had never seen before, but you didn't see his face or a photo of him?" She says, "Yes." The prosecutor responded, "Thank you for coming in today. No further questions." And that was the end of the day for, at least for Caitlin Kendall's reporting. Um, I wanted to bring a few more quick texts to your attention from, this is Barbara McDonald, investigative producer for Court TV. She says, according to the state's 40th witness, Master Trooper Brian Harshman, ISP, the only detail contained in any of Allen's confessions that only the perpetrator would know is the one time that he mentioned to Dr. Monica Walla that a van spooked him into stopping his plan. I want you to remember, though, Dr. Walla was telling him everything. She could have absolutely leaked this to, to him, that there was a van there. She could have leaked that. He could have made it up if he was insane and on these drugs and who the hell knows where it came from. But I think more so it's probably coming from Dr. Walla. So, yeah. And that was all. That was the big point that I wanted to make, is that their big smoking gun is that Rick Allen knew about this van. That was his That's what proves that he was there. He got spooked by the van. So obviously he's telling the truth because that happened. Even though Brad Weber's story has changed as to what time he's come home, and the whole spooked by a van, then you cross the river or creek, and then you take the girls' lives without R-ing them, which is what you intended to do in the first place, and that's why you were there, apparently, with the girls. I don't know. It's just, and none of it makes sense. But that's the state's smoking gun, is that. There was one more I think she had. One more interesting fact about Halloween, and the Delphi homicide. So, it's yesterday, the day 12 was Halloween. She says Halloween is an interesting day in the Delphi case. 2 years ago from yesterday, we first learned of Alan's arrest. Last year, on this day, his defense team was officially removed from the case, later reinstated, and today, the state's case is expected to conclude its trial. So it's the last 3 years of on Halloween. We've got the arrest of Richard Allen, for the first time. We learn of that. Then we learn the following year that Allen's attorneys were taken off from the case when Judge Gall was like, don't work on the case anymore until we have this hearing. And then they had the hearing, and she was like, you guys either quit or I'm going to out you in front of this media, which is the only time she let media in the courtroom. So yeah, there's that. And and then this year the defense gets to begin their case in chief. So I just wanted to leave you on that interesting fact. So, whew, that was a long one. Sorry, guys, but I had to combine them and get us caught up to date. So let me know what you guys think about the Delphi case. Are you following along? What creators are you following? Any specific sources that would be good that you would like to share? Let us know. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button on your way out if you don't mind, and I will see you guys in the next update. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks, guys. Take care.